You still believe that Napoleon was short? Stop. Right there. That was the first viral fake in history. The war wasn't lost by an army. It was lost by cartoons. British cartoons. They literally stole 10 centimeters of his height. He didn't have a complex. He was the victim of 18th century memes. If Napoleon had a Twitter account today, his first tweet would be, "Sitting tall. This is the archive of hidden facts." And today, we are exposing the truth about Napoleon. He wasn't a short guy with a complex. He was the master of 18th century fake news. Let's go. Picture this. Europe is on fire. Armies are marching. Cannons are roaring. And in the taverns of London, they are laughing. Laughing at pictures. Pictures where the French emperor looks like an evil little gnome in a giant bicorn hat. The war wasn't won by cannons, it was won by memes. That's not a TikTok slogan. That's the brutal reality of the Napoleonic Wars. In an era when the internet was still science fiction, fake news spread faster than a cannonball. Through newspapers, through whispers. And Napoleon Bonaparte? Oh, he wasn't just a conqueror of lands. He was the king of disinformation. But wait, was he really the short guy they draw in history books? Or did the British just shrink him by 10 centimeters? To make him easier to trample? Let's find out. Because history isn't dusty old books, it's a thriller with plot twists. Let's start with the main revelation. Napoleon was not short. Fake news. Napoleon, 1.5 meters tall. Reality, he would have tweeted, "Sitting high, looking far." According to the memoirs of his personal physician, François Antomarchi, who measured the emperor's body after his death on St. Helena in 1821, Napoleon's height was 5 feet 2 inches in the French measurement system. Sounds pathetic. Think again. The French foot was longer than the English foot, approximately 32.48 centimeters versus 30.48 centimeters. Let's do the math. 2 inches French equals roughly 1.69 meters, or 7 inches in British units. In the early 19th century, that was the average height for a European male, around 1.65 to 1.70 meters. The French back then were actually shorter on average, due to malnutrition and constant warfare. So Napoleon actually towered over his own soldiers. But where did the myth come from? Archived newspapers and memoirs give us a clue. British propaganda. In 1803, when Napoleon was threatening to invade England, London pamphlets and caricatures began portraying him as Little Boney, a tiny tyrant, compensating for his height with aggression. It was the classic Napoleon complex, even though the term was coined later. Here's the twist. Napoleon surrounded himself with giants. The elite Imperial Guard had a minimum height requirement of 1.78 meters. Standing next to them, he looked smaller. And the British grabbed that image. The irony of history? The man who conquered half of Europe became the victim of schoolyard bullying. Now imagine, if social media had existed back then, #short Napoleon would have been trending on Twitter, and the emperor would have clapped back with a meme of himself on horseback. Height isn't measured in centimeters. It's measured in conquests. A fact for the science fans, historians like Robert Holtman in his book Napoleonic Propaganda, 1950, confirm that the height myth. Now, let's talk about the main villain of this story, James Gillray, the British cartoonist who could be called the father of the political meme. Gillray, 1756 to 1815. He never saw Napoleon in real life, but that didn't stop him. He created the image of Little Boney, a tiny, child-sized dictator in oversized clothes. In his 1803 caricature, Maniac Ravings or Little Boney in a Strong Fit, Napoleon is shown as a hysterical toddler, stamping his little feet. And in The King of Brobdingnag and Gulliver, from 1804, King George III holds mini Napoleon in the palm of his hand, examining him through a magnifying glass. Gilray's sarcasm? Little tyrant, big plans. These pictures sold thousands of copies. They were reprinted in newspapers. They were even exported back to Europe. Archival newspapers versus memoirs. British papers like Punch and the Morning Post shrunk Napoleon's height by 10 centimeters, from 1.69 meters down to 1.57, mixing up French and English measurements. Memoirs of captured British officers added fuel. He's shorter than he looks in portraits. But French memoirs, like those of General Louis Bourrienne, Napoleon's personal secretary, say the opposite. The emperor was of average height, strong build. Here's the real question. Why did the British try so hard? The psychology is simple. Humiliate your enemy. Make him ridiculous. War isn't just about battles. It's a war for minds. Gilray made a fortune from this. And Napoleon? He was so furious, he banned Gilray's caricatures in France. Fake news, Napoleon was 1.5 meters tall. Reality, the British were just jealous of his style. Scientific fact, according to the National Geographic Society, height discrimination has existed for centuries, but Napoleon became its icon. The British used it to demoralize the French. Your emperor is a shrimp. Our king is a giant. But wait, how did Napoleon fight back? He didn't just suffer, he counterattacked with his own fake news. Now, let's flip the coin. Napoleon wasn't a victim, he was a master of propaganda. Historians call him the first modern dictator to use media for manipulation. 1799, the Egyptian campaign was a disaster. He lost his fleet, he lost thousands of soldiers. Napoleon returns to France as a hero. How? Fake bulletins. In Bulletin de la Grande Armée, he exaggerated every victory. Parallel, we destroyed the Mamluk army. We captured Alexandria. Reality, defeat at Abukir, plague sweeping through his troops. But the newspapers? They published only his version. Censorship was iron-fisted. Napoleon's own quote, "It's not what's true that matters, it's what people believe." The sarcasm? Sounds like a modern PR manager, doesn't it? And here's where the plot thickens. Napoleon controlled art. Painters like Jacques-Louis David showed him crossing the Alps on a majestic horse. Reality, he rode a mule. Coins with his profile. Operas about his heroism. Even furniture in empire style. Everything. Everything was designed to sell the image of the savior. 1804, his coronation as emperor. He took the crown from the Pope's hands and placed it on his own head. The message, "Pray, I belong to no one. I am my own master." The British fired back with caricatures, but in Europe, Napoleon was winning. Archive fact, 1812, the Russian campaign. He hid the losses. 400,000 dead soldiers became insignificant casualties in his reports. Memoirs of survivors, like Sergeant Bourgogne, tell the real story. Pahuli ate horses to survive. The dark humor? If Napoleon lived today, he would have posted a selfie with the Kremlin. Moscow is ours. Hash winning, the scientific take. Robert Holtman's book reveals Napoleon spent millions of francs on propaganda. He created a system where newspapers were state-owned. Criticism was treason. It was a blueprint for the totalitarian regimes of the 20th century. And so, the revelation is complete. The British shrunk Napoleon by 10 centimeters with cartoons. And he was the guru of fake news. Here's the real question. Who won? The myth is still alive. In movies like Ridley Scott's Napoleon, 2002-30, they show him shorter than he really was. The sarcasm. History loves drama, not facts. Humor for the audience. Imagine Napoleon on Twitter today. The British call me short? I'll conquer their island. and make them measure height the French way. Tall in spirit. Or a meme. Napoleon sitting on a throne chair. Caption: sitting high, ruling the world. The final fact. According to Wikipedia and historians, Napoleon's propaganda shaped modern media. He proved that fake news is a weapon stronger than cannons. For the archive of hidden facts, remember, check your sources, or you might become the next victim of Little Boney. You've been watching Svetlana, and this was Hidden Facts in History, 10th, 19th centuries. Join us. Watch our previous videos. More revelations are waiting for you. See you next time.